Cause I'm about it, if you bout it, yeah. Don't act like you are doing a favor, but honestly I swear you're my savior, yeah.
Alright, welcome back guys, and this is another video that I want to make on the side. I've always wanted to make something about gas. I've been developing with gas for a long time, and I just wanted to share some of my ideas that I understood from the community and some information that I got from Unreal. And over the years that I've been using gas, I just wanted to share some things for people out there who are new, but maybe they feel like gas is a little daunting. The first thing is that gas can be used for single player, but it's made with multiplayer in mind, right? So you have to understand that the premise of it is made for multiplayer in mind, but you can use it for a single player game, absolutely. The reason why gas is used, of course, is because it's just a great plug-in to work with. It has good replication for multiplayer. It's easier to do the abilities than if you were to do it on your own, because if you do it on your own, you have to understand about the animation blueprint. You have to understand about timers if you want to get your own abilities in, and then you have to also include replication and multiplayer with it. So this type of framework that what GAS is, it kind of puts it all in one place for you to try to use it. Unfortunately, if you're a blueprint only type person or a blueprint programmer, it's gonna be a little bit hard for you to grasp, because number one, when someone says, oh hey, this is gas, but you have to use it and activate it with C++, well, it can be a little daunting. Now there are some actual plugins in the marketplace for that, so if you are looking for something like that, you can look inside the marketplace and you can find those different types of gas plugins. I think there's like 2 or 3 of them, and I can put them in the description below later, but that's really not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is trying to understand the ActionRPG template that Unreal has made, or that Epic has made. And one of the things that we need to understand first is that this was actually made for single player. Yeah, believe it or not, it's actually for single player. It wasn't made with really multiplayer in mind. You can look at the code and you can just tell that it probably wasn't made for multiplayer in mind. Today, what I want to do is I want to kind of make it a little easier for people to understand. So this video is really for those who maybe know already how to code and maybe have an understanding of it, or those who have used blueprints for a while and want to try to tap into some C++ to see how gas is activated. In my opinion, over the years that I've been using gas, it's really good to try to understand the input, right? There are some different ways for inputting stuff, and what I mean by that is some people like to use enums. Some people like to use tags to input. I've seen both ways. I've seen different people discuss about only using tags, different people discuss about only using enums. In this ActionRPG template, I think that what they were using is a base of they were hard inputting it, but they were also using tags to cancel different types of input out. So you can look at this and see different examples. There's another one that's a multiplayer one, and they strictly use enums to handle it. And we can get into the pros and cons of that later if you guys want me to review the other multiplayer gas template. I can, but you're gonna have to hit that like so I can know that you like these videos and that you want me to continue on with showing off the framework of GAS. Now let's get started because I've been talking for a while, and hopefully by then it would have finished indexing. And let's see over here. Now, let's see, where do we get started? Okay, all right, get my bearings back here. Just give me 1 second. All right, so the first thing that you probably want to look at, when you go over here to the C++, is look how things are organized, right? You're new to this understanding of GAS. It's kind of hard to understand, but just look how things are organized. Look at the public folder, see what's in there. Well, we have a RPG character base. Let's get started with that, and let's see what's going on there. The thing about programming is you don't really necessarily want to make it so that there's a lot of stuff that is going on for you to understand, like, oh, I've got to click here, I've got to click here, I've got to go. No, just keep it simple. That's the basic thing. And if you're experienced in using Unreal, you know about the character. And this is a character base. And another thing is we can see that they've made an RPG ability component right here. Okay, so let's first look at this character base, and let's try to look at the header folder. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of the detail about C++, because if you're watching this video, you should have a little bit of an understanding of what's going on. So as you can see, the inheritance pattern is that this RPG character base, and you can see all this stuff right here, what's going on. And what I want you to pay attention to is this public eye ability system interface. This is an interface that you need in order to activate GAS. And as you can see, the interface is actually right here as a header include. If you don't have this, unfortunately, GAS is not going to work. Another thing that you need to know is that before you get started in GAS, you need to go here to, let's see, gameplay abilities, and you need to check it right here because it will not get activated. Unfortunately, you have to activate it. It doesn't come when you turn on Unreal. You have to activate it. So let's look at the build file here. So this is the build file. It's C# actually, and this is how it communicates with the editor, and you can get your plugins going. And so we can see the AI modules here. Also, game ability tasks are here. Game play tags are here, and also GAS. These three things right here to get started. Okay. So you want to make sure that they're activated. That's the first thing. So in your build file, you need to activate these, and you should be good to go. Now there's a process to keep in mind, and that means that GAS is more of something that's boilerplated. What I mean by boilerplated code is not like you're just going out there and you're doing your design document, you're writing it. This is code that is probably going to be used over and over again the same way, which is, some people would say, well, that's terrible, that's bad. Well, there's only a few ways to do it. Well, it's actually good because it minimizes the troublesome that you'll have in the future of, oh, I did it this way instead of that way. Oh, I activated this module this way, because no, there's a set way to do it and you have to do it this way. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So let's go back and let's just look at a little bit of what's going on here. We can see that there's a constructor here, of course. We can see that they have the U ability system component, and it's const override right here. Okay, we can see that it's right here. We can also see that they've got the get health, get mana, get health, get max health, get mana. They've made all these functions blueprint callable. Okay, We can scroll down and we can just look through, and you can look at the comments to actually see what it does. One thing that's really great is that Epic actually, they took the time to comment out their stuff. They took the time to make a lot of detail, so it's pretty much anybody can come in here and see what's going on and try to replicate it in their own project. And from what I gather from Epic is they want you to kind of follow this way of understanding. Regardless of which way you choose to put your input, they want you to follow this kind of boilerplated way, because they're like, this is the way for making games in GAS. Okay, so let's go to the CPP file, and as you can see, we have our ability system component, and it's create subject, create subobject. And this is really important because it's a component, so it needs to be installized in the constructor. So when you're doing the use static mesh component and you're trying to add that, it also needs to be installized in the constructor. And another thing about GAS is you have to wonder, oh, I see, there's another thing called attribute. Well, what is attribute? Okay, well, it contains your mana, your health, your stamina. They've worked it so that in GAS, all that stuff right there is put into one thing. So what we do in GAS is we use the gameplay effects to minimize stuff from our attributes. And I'll get into that a little later, but I just want to go over a little bit about what's going on here. Okay, so over here you can see that it has the add startup abilities, and it's going to check for the component, get roll authority. This is your basic stuff for getting it started. Okay, so if you're making your own GAS and you're having single player in mind, even though it looks like it's getting ready to get into multiplayer code, there's still some other steps that they need to do to actually get it to multiplayer, and I will get there on the next in the next video. But let's move on for time's sake here. You can scroll down and you can just look through the code and you can see different things that are going on, right? You can see that how they're getting the possessed by the controller. Okay, you can see how they've unpossessed it as well. And so this is pretty much the code. Okay, let's get back into Unreal Engine, and as you can see, let's go to the BP character for this guy. And as you can see, we can already start to see how UE is handling different things, right? And I'll go back to the C++ in a later video just talking about the input, because it's something that I want to spend a video on rather than just going, here's the input and there it is, guys. That's all I want to show you. But as you can see, they've put that code in the input, but now you can call it out, and there's functions here, and each one is tied to the actual input. So you can see it right here. Okay, so let's see right here. We go over here. Let me just go back to let's go back to IPG slot. So see, just give me 1 second here. Okay, so I did a search for it right here, and basically abilities grant to this character or creation. These will be activated by tags or events, are not bound to any specific input. So right here is another thing that they had a T array and a T subclass and the URPG gameplay abilities, and this is where the magic happens. So in a later video I'll get into it and I'll discuss about this stuff. It's not tagged to a specific input based on the tag. So in a later video I will get into that if you guys enjoy it. But the overall premise of this video is really just to look at what's going on with this action RPG. So another thing is we can see that there are where the attributes are that we saw, right? And here's the events, and we can see how they tied it in. And then we can see that they're even using the event on damage, right, to handle damage. So you can also see that this is a really good example of how you can get started in Unreal for using GAS. So we can see that they have also update mana bars. We can see they also have low health alert. So this is really some really interesting stuff. And let's go ahead and go to the animation BP. It's another one. So in the animation BP, we can see how UE actually handles GAS. And we can see that they're casting to the player character, right? And you can, if you notice, you can notice that the locomotion that I played in the video intro, it wasn't really like one of those like that had strife, that had all this. But what's interesting is that this GAS can also give you game juice for stuff that you're lacking. Like there's not a big locomotion, but it's still really fun because it has all these abilities. So it's a counterbalance, if you notice that. And just to show you what's going on, you can see that the state machine is really small. It's only got an idle, it's got a blend space, right? It's got a montage slot, but that's basically it, right? So let's just look at some of the stuff that's going on here. And as you can see, if you're setting up your own GAS, you're probably going to need some of these stuff to make your game have a little bit of game juice. Camera shake, notify, block input, movement, shield, jump section, all this stuff. You can look at it and you can look at the notifies to see, wow, I mean, this is how you'd probably want to make a game. Even if you're not using GAS, I would highly suggest for anybody who's interested in Unreal to look at this, because it is the premise for building a lot of different Unreal games. And it also shows you what you probably are going to end up needing. Now, this is one thing that I like, is this RPG item. How they made an item manager, right? And inside of here, let's go ahead and look. Let's see here. RPG item. So inside of here, it's got the base item. And what happens is you can load all your base stuff inside of this data asset. So it's really cool. So if you've ever used, I guess, anything like Unity, right, and you know those scriptable objects, this is one of the things. I mean, it's got more modular ability, but yeah, it's kind of got that same premise that what's going on. Another thing is that you probably want to look at also the abilities for the player, right? So like, let's say you want to look at the sword ability. Okay, so you look at the sword ability, you can go inside of here. You can see that there's a parent class running on here. So what you want to do is go actually to the parent class and see what's going on. So automatically you can see how UE starts its ability. It has actually a parent ability, and then you can create child classes for those parent abilities. And it's also got the tag melee right here, okay? And as you can see, they made it so that they created a child class from here. So if I wanted to create a child class for another additional, let's say another additional weapon or ability, I would just go here and I would just create it, right? And so that's just basically the gist of things, right? So I encourage you to go in here and look at stuff and try to understand it from a game developer aspect and see, okay, well, I'm looking in here, I'm seeing all this stuff. Okay, the game instance, what is that? Well, a lot of times you can go in here and you can just hit the Google button and you can see what it actually does. But if you look at the Unreal documentation, they talk a lot about how it's important to look at this stuff to see what every game for Unreal actually needs. And also, wow, here's a save game, global option save game. So if you don't know how to make a save game, you can also use it for that. If you don't know how to put save in your game, you can also use it for that. So basically, here's the flat out understanding of Epic's Action RPG. And here's another thing that I want to actually talk about too, is that they put the UI on the player controller, you know, so it can control all the UI that goes on. You've got it in one spot. You see, here's the HUD. It can control all of it, right? Also, you've got your data asset right here. Okay. You can see this one is called Token Souls right here. Okay. And later, I know I'm getting very, very brief, but later I will get into these different topics, and I will get more. I will get into it a little bit more deeper. So you can look right here and look at the UI widgets. You can go through and see how they did everything, and then you can try to put it in your project. Even if you don't use GAS, I would highly stress out the fact that it's probably a good template to look at, just to refer back to how they did things, so that you have a base to start with, right? Okay. So I'm glad that you guys were here on this video. I hope that you can join me on this game developer journey. I hope that we can all grow with each other, and we can understand each other, and we can have good discussions about different things. And I hope that everybody grows together. So thank you for your time, and thank you for watching my video. I hope you hit the like button and subscribe, so that way I can continue to make different types of GAS videos or different C++ intro videos. But I really hope you guys get some knowledge from this, and don't get scared about C++, and just dive into it. Well, alright guys.
Cause I'm bout it, if you bout it.